Hello, it's Sunday evening, and I'd like to do what I hope will become a regular practice here, and that's review the week previous unit and look ahead to what you can expect in the unit coming up. So very simply saying, last week we really had two things we did, actually three. You had your introductions, which were great. They showed us what a differing and diverse group we have, although there's a lot of common experiences and a common love of sports and a curiosity about the business of sports. We also have a lot of different perspectives, and that's going to help us as we go forward. Second thing, I really want to thank everybody for giving me your perspective on what some of the big issues are in sport and the business of sport today. And again, you saw a lot of commonality and a lot of diversity in the issues. A lot of people talked about things about PEDs, and those certainly have an impact both on and off the field. Salaries are a very, very obvious point that we'll talk about no matter what sport we're talking about. And another thing that was mentioned, for instance, was franchise movement and teams wanting cities to build them new stadiums. That's a huge issue. It's something we'll cover in quite a bit of depth. But in each one of those, you can see how the economic part is almost as big, or perhaps it's kind of like an iceberg. You know, we probably see the athletic part, but the economic part is even bigger, and that's what we don't see, and that's what makes this course so interesting. Okay, another thing that we did last week too is I presented that little video on economic principles, where we had this guy that so many of you talked about, a fast talking guy, and well, he was kind of funny, or maybe he wasn't, and did I understand it or didn't I? The reason that was in there was very simple. I was kind of looking for a painless way of reviewing the basic principles of economics, and his talk, and the guy's name is Yoram Bauman, and he is an environmental economist, and I think when he got into the business of being an economics comedian, even though that may sound like a bit of an oxymoron, he was at the University of Washington. But his comments are based on the 10 principles of economics that are used in the textbook that we teach principles of economics from here at Post, and that's a book by Gregory Mankiw of Harvard University. And the reason I put this in, like I said, hopefully it was painless. Hopefully it was a little funny. To me, it's a lot funny, but then again, I have an economics degree. But what I was really hoping that people would get was not that you would learn economic principles, was that you'd remember them. Okay, that you'd hear words and phrases and concepts mentioned that you should recall, because remember, this is an economics course as much as it is sport. And if you don't understand it from the economic perspective, you're probably going to struggle a little bit. So particularly if you've not taken any economics courses before, this is going to be very difficult for you if that happened. But most of you remember quite a bit. You said triggered some thoughts and some ideas you had, and at least heard the terminology. And you're going to see where that becomes important as we jump right into week 2, because there are a couple of sections in week 2 and unit 2, one entitled the Economist's Toolkit, where you'll see quite a bit of economic terminology thrown at you. I'm not asking you to study it in depth, but again, look at it from that perspective. What do you have to work with from an economic point of view when we're talking about the business of sport? Okay, a couple other things that are going to come up this week. The real concentration of this week is looking at sport as a profit-making business. And we have a couple of videos. One I noticed you may have to click through patiently to get to the video, or the article, excuse me. And the article dates back about 2 years to when we were experiencing the NFL lockout. But it does a great job of explaining a lot of the workings of the NFL and how it works as a business. I'm gonna ask you to look at things again about sport as a profit-making business. Do you think that's the role of sport? Is sport entertainment? What is it? You know, this week we're hearing about it's the time when we wake up tomorrow, we'll start looking through the newspaper, look at our favorite football team, NFL football team, and see who got cut. And you'll see players who maybe are a little bit surprising because they're a name we know, a veteran or something like that. And the comment will come out from them when they were interviewed about getting cut by a particular team. And invariably, more than one of them is going to say, it's just a business. Well, is it just a business, or is it a very interesting and differentiated kind of business, quite different from what we're used to? So that's what we're going to try to look at this week. The whole idea of sport is a profit-making business. Why and how does it operate in that way? And why is it maybe different or in some ways similar to other businesses? A couple of people mentioned in the discussion board back in Unit 1 how they were surprised to see that even though we think of sports as this gigantic business, that maybe insurance is a lot bigger. And remember that the text mentioned, the nightly news doesn't have the daily insurance report, but it surely does have the daily sports report. So do emotional factors come in? I made the comment earlier that sports is different than other economic activities because economics is based on the idea of rational decision making, and we all know that we can make irrational decisions in sports. So once again, try to keep that perspective of an economist, of an academic, a politician, a team owner, all those kind of things at that upper level. And by that I mean a hierarchical and organizational level, and try to stay away from thinking like a sports fan. It's going to be very tough. It's tough for all of us. It's tough for me. But that's the way we need to do things, and I'll be looking at things in a little bit more depth this week and try to get some more stuff into this unit for you a little later. Okay? Thanks for your participation last week, and looking forward to what you have to say this week. Thanks again.